Hey there, guitar people. I know one of the most frustrating parts of the learning curve for developing players is when they start improvising and soloing, but everything they play sounds robotic. A lot of guitarists seem to think they sound robotic because they need to learn more licks, more scales, more music theory. But that's usually not the problem. The real issue is way simpler and honestly sort of invisible. Players have trained themselves to treat every note as equal. And when we think of every note as equal, well, our playing has to be robotic. There's no shape, no direction, no message, just lifeless notes. It's why our scales feel trapped in boxes. It's why our ear can't guide our hands. It's why the notes you play, they don't have any emotional weight. Today, I'm going to show you how to break that habit. And once you do, you stop playing just notes. So grab your guitar, let's get into it. Have a listen to these two short solos over the same backing track. In the first one, everything was stiff and robotic. The second one was more flowing, intentional, and expressive. So how does our playing get stuck sounding like that first example? Well, it's not because you don't have feel or imagination. I think it comes from the way so many players learn and practice these days. We run scales up and down, but we don't really listen to the notes that we're playing. We learn licks by rote instead of tearing them apart and changing them to make them our own. And we chase consistent technique, but that makes us attack every note the same way. Your mind is in technique mode, and you've learned to expect every note to carry the same weight. Remember, technical practice is not the finish line of musical expression. It's just the starting point. And today, I want to show you how to take those same technical elements and practice them musically and creatively, so they actually start showing up in your solos. Let's get started with scales. Most players practice scales in a way that practically guarantees robotic soloing. We turn on the metronome, we start at the lowest note on the lowest string, and we run it straight up and down. We usually play the same subdivision time after time, whether it's eighth note triplets, 16th notes, whatever. And we obsess over our picking and our cleanliness. But we don't spend any time practicing making scales sound interesting. We don't explore the sound of the different intervals. So let me show you how to inject some life into your scale practice. First step, we're going to practice smaller chunks. Instead of playing across all the strings, let's work on 2 strings at a time. For example, the backing track we're using today is in G major, and the chords are G, C, A minor, and D. So if we go to the G at the 8th fret of the B string, we play a simple 3-note per string pattern, I get G, A, B, C, D, and E. All strictly staying in that position. But we can also shift our index finger down to grab F sharp, or we can slide our pinky up to hit F sharp on the high E. And those little horizontal shifts are a gold mine for soloing ideas. And moving horizontally on a limited number of strings like that, it forces you to add phrasing ornaments like slides or bends to make things interesting. We'll talk more about good phrasing shortly. But the idea is to hang out in this small area and really get to know it. And in just this little bit of real estate, we already have more than enough notes to make great music. We got the notes to play the triads of all 4 chords in the progression. G major with the notes G, B, and D. C major with the notes G, C, and E. A minor with the notes A, C, and E. And lastly, D major, we've got the notes F sharp, A, and D. Plus, we've got tension notes to play for each of those chords. And once we're comfortable with what's available here, we could extend the idea by shifting positions horizontally. For instance, we started with G at the 8th fret as home, but what about if sliding up to B at the 12th fret? And then we'd have the notes B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. And that's the real objective here, learning everything we can do and making music with a smaller amount of information. We're developing our ear, our harmonic awareness, and our creativity by breaking out of the habit of the 6-string multi-octave scale regurgitation. But before we start turning this into licks, we need to really understand what we're looking at. Which notes are chord tones, which notes are tension notes, and why that distinction matters. Learning to actually recognize chord tones and tension notes, and not just see them, but to hear them. That's what I call working music theory knowledge. So let's break this down in a simple, practical way. Chord tones are simply the notes that make up the chord you're playing over. They're the stable inside tones that give your phrases a sense of home and resolution. The root, it establishes the chord's identity. The third tells you whether it's major or minor. The fifth reinforces stability. And if we use the seventh, it adds depth and character. These notes form the skeleton of our solos. And when we target them, we stop treating every scale note as equal and we start creating musical gravity. Some notes feel like destinations, others feel like transitions. Tension notes are the notes around chord tones that add color, emotion, and movement. They're not wrong or outside, but they're just dissonant enough to make our ears long for resolving to a chord tone. And that's where emotion comes from. Over a major chord, the 2nd or the 9th evokes feelings of longing, hope, and optimism. Over a minor chord, it conjures up melancholy and yearning. Over a major chord, the 4th or the 11th creates feelings of suspense and unresolved expectations. Over a minor chord, these feelings are mystery and contemplation. Lastly, over a major chord, the 6th or 13th, it adds warmth, sweetness, and contentment. And over a minor chord, we feel bittersweet and wistful when we hear the 6th or 13th. When we resolve a tension note into a chord tone, we get that satisfying ah feeling. It's a moment that makes solos feel intentional and musical. Some notes become destinations, some notes become colors, and some are just passing tones. And that's a musical hierarchy. It gives our solos shape and emotional meaning. A simple way to start really hearing and understanding this is a little exercise that I call the chord tone, tension, and resolution drill. Pick the chords you're playing over. In the case of our backing track, it was G, C, A minor, and D. And first, identify the chord tones in the little 2-string area that you're working in. Now, we already pointed out the root, 3rd, and 5th of each chord, and we're going to start by playing 2 of the chord tones over each chord so our ear really gets acclimated. Over G, let's play the root and the 3rd. Over C, we're going to play the root and the 3rd. Over A minor, also the root and the minor 3rd. And then over D, we're going to switch it up and we're going to play the major 3rd and the 5th. And you can really hear the chord changes without a rhythm guitar playing. once that really feels comfortable, we're going to add just one tension note into the mix. We're going to play the tension note first, then resolve it into one of the chord tones, and then move to the second chord tone. Over G, we're going to play A, which is the second or the ninth, and then G and B. Over C, we're going to play D, which is again the ninth, and then C and E. Over A minor, we're going to play B, which is the second or the ninth, then A and C. Then over D, we're going to play G, which is the fourth, and then the major third and the fifth. And you can loop that idea as long as you're still feeling creative. Try different rhythms, add simple phrasing ornaments like slides and bends. This one little exercise builds melodic awareness, harmonic awareness, and you can work on your phrasing, all inside a very manageable space on the fretboard. Lastly, let's talk about phrasing ornaments that we can add that really brings these notes to life. Phrasing is something guitarists know they need, but for some reason they don't practice it nearly enough. I think it's because good phrasing, it's subjective. We know it when we hear it, but there aren't clear rules or benchmarks to follow like there are with practicing scales. It's easy to get gratification practicing scales because you know when you've improved, you get faster, you get cleaner. Phrasing is more touchy-feely. It requires you to stay present and make decisions in real time where you can just go on autopilot when you rip through a scale. So let's revisit the drill we just did and add in some simple but very effective phrasing ornaments. Over G major, we're playing the notes A, G, and B. Now A is sandwiched in between those two chord tones. We could slide into A, give it a little vibrato because we're going to linger there, slide down to G, and then up into B. We give that B a little vibrato also. We could do the same thing but bend up into B and give it some bent note vibrato. Or here's a favorite of mine. We're going to bend G up into A, release the bend and slide back to A. We're going to go back to G and then bend the A up to B and then into C. Kind of a David Gilmour thing. Now release the bend back to A and pull off to G. And now we've got that guitar singing. Now I'm not doing anything complicated there, but adding in those ornaments to my ears completely changes the feel and musicality of the notes being played. Now let's put this all together, starting back in the spot, the G note at the 8th fret of the B string. Challenge yourself to come up with 5 or more musical licks right there and use everything we just covered. Chord tones for stability, tension notes for color and pull, and then add in phrasing to bring it to life. Let me try improvising 5 licks over the backing track right now. Have a listen. Now, once you're feeling good about what you can do with these notes, let's extend the idea and shift positions horizontally. Remember, we had our first 6 notes, and then we had our next 6 notes starting with the B at the 12th fret of the B string. This time, I want you to come up with 5 or more licks that move between and combine the 2 patterns. I mean, listen to the possibilities with just this simple little idea. Let me play over the backing track again, come up with some ideas using these principles. Let's see if I can play something nice. Here we go. You start feeling really good with the connection and familiarity you have coming up with ideas on these 2 strings. Stretch out to using 3 strings. How about from D on the G string to E on the high E as a place to start? You take the time to map out all the chord tones and tension notes in this part of the fretboard too, and then combine it with the pattern at the 12th position. That would give us G on the G string to A on the high E string. Once again, find your chord tones and your tension notes. Practice moving between them in time over the chord changes. Start putting together licks and phrases. The idea is to know these small segments of the fretboard so intimately that hearing and creating melody, it's something that just flows. You're not getting lost, you're not stalling out. You know it so well you've eliminated any chance of paralysis by analysis. As we put all this together, I hope you can see how these small shifts can completely change how you approach soloing and improvisation. You're no longer just running scales or hoping you play a random good lick. You're choosing notes with intention, you're shaping them with phrasing ornaments, and you're building licks that actually say something. So take these concepts, slow things down, and really explore them. The more you stay present and make deliberate musical decisions, the more your solos stop sounding robotic and they start sounding like you. As always, thanks for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications. I put a video out like this every week, and I wish the very best for you and your guitar playing. I'll catch you in the next lesson.